Toronto Raptors fans are horrified of this, as there wasn't a ton of moves to be made over the course of this offseason. Masai Ujiri made his big swings at last year's trade deadline, but clearly at the end of last year, this team was not completely built. There were some holes in this roster that still seem to be the case going into next season. Yes, we locked in Immanuel Quickley. Yes, we locked in Scottie Barnes. There were definitely some positives, some moves that we can get excited about going into next season. There's pieces on this roster that we are certainly excited to watch. You know, the young big three of RJ, IQ, and Scottie are going to be a fun tandem to watch. The development of Gradey Dick, lots of fun storylines. But no Toronto Raptors fan wants this team to be middle of the pack, unsure of what to do with the future, the team moving forward, and the Raptors kind of kept themselves on both sides of the fence, not trading Bruce Brown, not trading Jakob Poeltl, but still moving in that younger direction. So that has led a lot of NBA analysts, a lot of Toronto Raptors fans to come out and speak out on the current state of this Toronto Raptors team. So we're going to dive into what everyone's been saying over the past week or so, with Media Day just around the corner. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with everything regarding this Toronto Raptors team, but what everyone is saying and whether or not Raptors fans should actually be worried about the current state of this Toronto Raptors roster. So let's just dive into it, because a nightmare scenario was proposed by Bleacher Report for this Toronto Raptors team, and essentially it's what a lot of Raptors fans have been saying. An undefined direction that does not emphasize flexibility, but instead renders them the Atlanta Hawks of the North. And, you know, the article kind of goes on to say no one knows what this Toronto Raptors team has been doing, because frankly, it's not clear, right? There's a lot of teams, most teams in the NBA, you can watch their moves, you can watch their transactions, and understand what the team, the direction is going in. However, Masai Ujiri, I don't want to say has made bad moves, but it's unclear because, as I mentioned in the intro, we moved younger, got off of Pascal Siakam, got off of OG Anunoby's contracts, vets on this team, but kept around a Jakob Poeltl, kept around a Bruce Brown, kept around a few guys, you know, to help contend for this team in the future. So, or for this season, beyond just really stockpiling assets to contend in the future. So people aren't sure of what this Toronto Raptors team is doing, and you know, the squad could be kind of shackling itself to that middle of the pack. Essentially, the article went on to say, I won't read it all verbatim, but the worst case is shackling themselves to the in-between. You know, if the Raptors are winning 32 and 35 games and leaving the roster untouched, and then by the end of the season ended up being the 10th or 11th seed in the Eastern Conference, and then on draft night, little hope of bringing in a Cooper Flag or one of those top prospects, that is kind of the worst case scenario for a lot of Toronto Raptors fans. And looking at the roster, looking at the depth chart on this Toronto Raptors team, I have my own opinions, because again, everyone has their own before heading into the season, especially with so many unknowns on this squad, right? It's fair to be completely all over the place in terms of opinions. But frankly, I really like the starting lineup on this team. I think Immanuel Quickley, Gradey Dick, RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, that is a legitimate starting five out there in the Eastern Conference. And frankly, it's going to be something we saw last season when we saw IQ, RJ, and Scottie and Jakob all play together, you know, in their specific lineups. That team was good. The Raptors, those lineups were very effective out there on the basketball court. However, it's the depth of this team which gives me more concerns about us being able to win games, us being able to be not in the New York Knicks, Sixers, Celtics category going into next year, but more so in the Orlando Magic, Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat, that type of level in the Eastern Conference. The real deciding factor for me on that front is essentially that bench. How are we going to be able to deploy our depth to be effective going out there for this entire season? And I'm excited about Davion Mitchell, but again, he was an unknown. The Kings were willing to give him up for pretty cheap. So essentially Jalen McDaniels. So he's an unknown despite being one of the best on-ball defenders out there in the NBA. Bruce Brown just had knee surgery. So we'll see if that's, you know, he's able to be effective out there on the basketball court. Right? Ochai Agbaji can't shoot the lick of threes last season, but was one of the best, you know, defenders out there in the NBA. So that's a guy. It's an unknown as well. Chris Boucher, will he even get minutes? Kelly Olynyk looked a little bit concerning out there in Team Canada, but I think he'll be fine out there in the league. And then we have a ton of young players. Jamal Shed, we have Jacoby Walter, we have Mobo, we have a ton of these guys that I don't think are guaranteed going to be getting minutes, guaranteed going to be getting a bunch of run, but certainly cannot be relied upon right now, you know, in terms of expectations, making predictions, calming worries, you know, going to next year about being guys you can rely upon to be in the rotation for your team. So that's something that is a big factor for me. But essentially, you know, more NBA analysts came out and discussed how, you know, the other X factor, you know, for this team, and this Grant Hughes coming out and saying that the Toronto Raptors will proceed into their next era with either one or two legitimate stars, and Immanuel Quickley will determine which number ends up being correct. So And it may be a little slight to RJ Barrett, because honestly, RJ Barrett was our best player when Scottie Barnes went down last season, but that's neither here nor there. Immanuel Quickley is essentially regarded as the X factor for this Toronto Raptors team. And last season, averaged 17 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, solid numbers. You know, the guy is close to 40% from the three-point line, shot 67% of his threes were all assisted, 40% of his shots were threes, only 25 years old. Showed some promise out there on the defensive end, but again, with the big contract that was offered to him this offseason, right, the hope is that Immanuel Quickley is going to be a guy that's more really taking that step into at least one of those fringe all-star level players within the next couple seasons. So if that's the case, you know, we get that second star for Scottie Barnes if RJ Barrett isn't that as well, right? If Immanuel Quickley can take that step up, you know, that's another position for the Toronto Raptors to really shock a lot of teams, to be in the middle of the pack of the Eastern Conference next year, you know, ahead of the Magics, the Cavaliers, those types of rosters. To be able to construct this team to be more effective, to, you know, make moves to more so buy now rather than, you know, tanking next season, because that's all I'm looking for. That's all I want. I don't care if the Toronto Raptors, you know, aren't currently the team, aren't currently that squad that we should get super excited about, and they need another year of development, need some top draft prospect to really come in and solidify the young core of this group. I'm fine with that. But what I don't want for this Toronto Raptors team is to, as the nightmare scenario projected, right? Like, I don't want this squad to come out there and be a play-in team that has no real hope. The Chicago Bulls, the Atlanta Hawks, all those types of squads where, again, we have to tear it down a little bit more, or there's no clear direction to get better out there in the short-term future. So that's kind of the concern. And essentially, it's what Bleacher Report, another article has come out and said. Eric Pincus of BR essentially said that this is probably the projected direction, at least in his opinion. The Toronto Raptors don't quite look good enough to crack the top 6 of the Eastern Conference, but they are too talented to tank for the lottery. They're a mid-team, middle of the pack, which is generally a bad thing in the NBA. However, their core, Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Immanuel Quickley, is young enough that the Raptors have some time to build something substantial around them, and it just might get the Raptors out of the middle of the pack this coming season. So, again, kind of projecting the Raptors are that sort of mid-level team that Masai Ujiri has constructed there at this point. And that's the hope. That's the hope that we don't see, right? Like, again, I am very, very encouraged. I'm excited to watch this starting unit, this fully healthy Toronto Raptors roster play going into next year. But the bench, I've gotten hot. You guys have watched these videos for the last few years. We've all taken the you know, put the rose-tinted glasses on for a lot of the bench players that have come into the Toronto Raptors in previous seasons, and I feel like I've been duped too many times. Some of these Toronto Raptors guys coming into this year. So, you know, specifically the bench guys. I think we have a decent sample size for all those guys in the starting lineup in this projected sort of lineup. But the bench guys are really going to have to, one or two of these dudes. Jakob Poeltl is going to have to be able to put up buckets, you know, get some points. You know, one of these things that happen. Jamal Shed has to be able to knock down threes at a decent clip and facilitate off the bench. You know, same with Davion Mitchell. Ochai Agbaji has to at least be able to shoot 30% from the three-point line, not in the 20s. You know, we have to have some players just internal development, get better, and improve in order for this team to actually be able to get out there and get us excited about one of these top matchups out there in the Eastern Conference. Get us excited about the direction, the future of this Toronto Raptors team. Or else, it's going to be a mid-level squad, and we're not going to get a good draft pick, and it's just going to suck. So, that is what it is. Raptors fans are worried about this. I am a bit worried about this. I don't know what to predict. I'm obviously going to be overly optimistic. I'm going to see this team on Media Day be amped up, as all Toronto Raptors fans should be. You know, we should get excited about our team. Sports is about being a fan of your squad, supporting them. But again, it's there are a lot of fans worried. So I want to know what you guys think about this team and the direction of the squad. But you guys, let's think as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out.